Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Excellency Vice Rector, which is just left, and the Dean of Faculty of Agriculture, honorable distinguished guests from various countries, including Japan, Australia, Malaysia, Professor Kamaluddin, Professor Tomoyuki Makino, Professor Budiman Minasni, Professor Susilawati. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor to attend this important event. I would like to send an apology from the President of Indonesian Soil Science Society, Ibu Husnin, for not being able to attending this event on behalf of HITI, the Indonesian Soil Science Society, and to represent our President. Please let me present a topic on the effects of climate change on food security. This talk will be divided into 4 parts, started with introduction to illustrate global and national food condition. Secondly, discussing the agriculture and climate change challenge. And the third, we would like to describe the updated target of reducing carbon emission and economic value of carbon. And last, is related to the role of soil science and its society on food security, the benefits of mitigation and climate change adaptation. Let me start with the introduction on current food issues worldwide. FAO reported that about 59 countries facing famine. Meanwhile, the economists reported a global silent tsunami where almost 970 million people are starving worldwide. Moreover, global health stated that Indonesia facing a food crisis where about 7 until 16% of the population vulnerable to hunger. The food crisis may trigger social and political conflict, uprising due to increasing price of staple food, like what happens in Indonesia in case of rice. The data of Indonesian Ministry of Agriculture illustrates the fluctuated pattern of rice production and consumption within this year, showing that there are a few months where deficit is faced, urging the government to import. Another data from Statistical Agency of Indonesia describes a significant decreases of production area, particularly rice, which dropped about 36% in the last year compared to the condition 5 years ago. Climate change has significantly diverted the seasons. From an analysis conducted by the Ministry of Agriculture, the last El Nino event in 2023 has substantial effects on the and continues to this year's. Climate change has triggered Indonesian Climate Agency to release a drought warning in 2024. The warning stated that as many as 19% of zones have entered dry season. Moreover, most of Java, Bali, and Nusa Tenggara will soon enter dry season in the next 3 decades. Drought will dominate Indonesian region up to the end of September. In 2012, the presidential decree was released to order related ministers taking necessary steps according to their duties, functions, and authorities to secure national grain or rice production, as well as anticipate and respond quickly to extreme climate conditions. The Ministry of Agriculture should take a role related to anticipate the circumstances from analyzing data, preparing adaptation on food production due to extreme weather conditions, including water management, handling pests, floods and droughts, distributing aids to farmers such as seeds, fertilizers, pesticides or machineries, as well as strategy to diverse consumption and food reserve. There are a few issues related to food in Indonesia. The first issue is related to food energy crisis, which are triggered by population growth, resources degradation, and climate change. Indonesia's population approximately grew 1.17%. Comparing production and consumption in 2022, rice was counted deficit at about 2 million tons. Meanwhile, land conversion rate is about 6,500 hectares per year. Therefore, the burden of increasing production is getting heavier, and we cannot solely rely on agriculture become the victim of climate change, being source of emissions, but at the same time have an opportunity to contribute to sequestrating carbon on reducing emissions. Climate change has continuously worsened throughout the year, where the global average of combined land and ocean surface temperature have significantly increased.
Saya masih.
Agricultural activities are also considered a source of greenhouse gas emission. Increasing nitrous oxide is attributed to agricultural land management and livestock manure. Methane is generated from paddy rice cultivation, livestock enteric fermentation, livestock manure, and burning plant-based biomass. Carbon dioxide is also yielded from urea fertilization and the use of lime as fertilization. 6% of greenhouse gas emission are generated by the agricultural sector. The highest generated greenhouse gas is methane, followed by nitrous oxide and carbon dioxide. The total emission has increased by about 9% from 2000. Most of this emission are generated from agricultural land, whilst 23% are generated from farm. By looking at Indonesia's NDC in 2022, we can see that agriculture has the second lowest greenhouse gas growth. Despite all that, there is still a need to reduce the emission to adhere the commitment made in COP26 in Glasgow. By 2030, the agricultural sector aims to lower its emission to 10 million tons of carbon dioxide. According to 2022 Agricultural Sector Emission Inventory and Mitigation Achievement Report, greenhouse gases were lowered to 15.6 million tons of carbon dioxide. The biggest reduction comes from sequestration on annual fruit trees. With the current climate situation, a triple win would be increased productivity without jeopardizing natural resources, increasing adaptation by reducing vulnerability to extreme climate events, diseases, and pests, and reducing emissions by avoiding deforestation to counter increasing population as well as increasing plant and soil carbon sequestration. There are several challenges in mitigating climate change. Some that I would like to highlight is the lack of data, MRFs that require further development, and uncertainty assessment for inventory and mitigation calculation. Indonesian
Soil Science Society, or HITI, alongside the government, can also contribute efforts to anticipate climate change for food security by strengthening and reinforcing regulation, fortify scientific basis and climate change courses, familiarize and disseminate information, and introduce more actionable suggestions to reduce carbon emission. In hindsight, climate change threatens life. In this instance, food security is also a priority on top reducing greenhouse gas emission. Adapting and mitigating climate change is the best option for agricultural sector. Mitigation, reduction, adaptation requires cooperation from all parties. Soil scientists and practitioners can come up with solutions and educate the community instead of intimidating the community. HITI, or Indonesian Soil Science Society, as a group, can contribute to creating comprehensive education on climate change and provide solutions to maintain food resilience. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.